Hello, this is Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I am your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. I'm very excited to be with you here today because I have a very special guest. Today, we're going to talk with Sabrina from Calm English. And as always, these interviews with other English teachers are designed to give you a chance to watch us having natural English conversations, as well as learn about good practices in order to improve your English, talk about our different experiences living and working in other cultures, and also just give you a chance to get to know us and our personalities. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Sabrina and give her a chance to introduce herself and tell you about what she does at Calm English.
All right. Hey, hi, Kim. I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you. Please introduce yourself to my channel.
All right, great, thanks. Yeah, so I help advanced professionals who are looking to really speak English really well and on the job. So just so that they can do their jobs and not worry about the English speaking part. And I have videos and articles on Calm English, like Kim was saying. And I also tutor people one-on-one on Skype or some other online video method. And so I've been doing that for about 2 years now, almost. And I've been loving it. And my students are getting promotions or going to work in English-speaking countries and just living their lives to the fullest because they have the ability to just speak English easily now.
I love it. It's kind of like you're a facilitator in order to help people express themselves that much more comfortably and have that kind of confidence that enables them to be fluent, but also just be more confident when working in English.
Yeah, so confidence is really important when speaking in another language, and it can be one of the last things to come. So maybe you've been studying English since you were in high school and even college, and maybe you can write academic papers and write emails, but it's still difficult to communicate with your colleagues. So that's where I come in. I try and help people just to get that last bit of fluency.
Yeah. And so I know that you're a fluency coach, so I would love to hear you tell our listeners a little bit about, the journey to fluency. We were talking a little bit before we came on video about how, there's the journey to fluency can shift and change over the course of your language learning journey, which is what I talk about a lot here. And so I'd love to hear kind of insights that you've had either from your own experience or from working with your learners to help them make progress and proceed along that kind of long journey to fluency.
Yeah, Kim, we were saying that fluency, it's a lifelong goal. It's a lifelong process. It's something that you're always going to be working towards or maintaining or really aspiring to. With my own fluency journey, speaking a couple foreign languages, I currently speak Spanish fluently. And the reason that I'm able to feel like I'm fluent is because I use it every day. I'm in contact with friends and family who speak in Spanish. And I choose to watch movies, even kids shows with my daughter in Spanish. So I'm immersed in the whole Spanish culture and the Spanish language. I used to be fluent in Japanese, and I'm not anymore because I don't have this system anymore. I don't have the routines and the rituals set in place that help me continue to speak the language and communicate in the language and continue to grow and advance. So I used to be fluent and now I'm not very fluent. But as I was saying, if I went back to Japan or if I were to create that Japanese immersion system for myself again, I know I could get back to a fluent level. And it's that system that I help my students create. And I don't help them create the same system that I've created because that's the system that works for me. I help them find the system that works for them, because we all learn differently, we all enjoy different things, and we all need to use English or whatever language for different reasons. So I help them find their reasons, and then work towards those goals and find the way that they like to do it.
That is, I have so many things I want to say there. So first, I love that what you just said, which was talking about how, that each person has a system that works for them and their goals and their needs and their own interests. Because a lot of times we see on the internet, this one tip will make you more fluent in English. And there's a joke within the English teaching community, at least our part of the community, like, oh, I have that one secret to make you fluent. And I've started to feel like I don't know what fluency is, because I'm like, what's that one secret? Like, I don't know that. And I've been teaching for 10 years, and I'm sure you have the same experience. So I think that that's the most essential thing. Like, what worked I had a student ask me earlier this week about when I knew I was fluent in Spanish. And I said it was when I was able to make people laugh in Spanish. And so I was so excited. That was my goal. I was finally fluent. And then this was 15 years ago. And then I went back to the US for 5 years, and I lost my fluency, just like you were mentioning in Japanese. And so that was a huge disappointment, because fluency was like my number one goal of all my life, was to be fluent in Spanish, and I lost it. But the thing that I've learned since it's been 15 years and now I'm fluent again, is that you can like, your fluency will go up and down depending on your life circumstances, but you can return to it. And so I think this is a myth, or like, not a myth, but it's a reality that English teachers don't tell students, or not even English teachers, like teachers need to tell students. It will change over the course of your life. And I see you agree with me.
Yeah. So I'm nodding here. And I think that's why I call myself a fluency coach. So not just a teacher, there's this coaching aspect with my classes. So I want to help my students find out what's your big secret. What's the number one secret? What's the big thing that's going to help you get fluent? And what does fluency even mean to you? Because we all have these different definitions of what being fluent is. Some of my students have said, oh, it's when I'm going to be able to watch an American movie and understand the whole thing. Other students have said, no, I just know that I need to communicate with my coworkers, and some of them are from Germany, and some of them are from Russia, and some of them are from China. But if I can communicate with all of them, then I know that I'm fluent. I'm just able to do what I need to do in English.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point as well. As I notice, that there's fluency like in your interpersonal relationships. So I would consider myself fluent in my friendships and my, when I have, boyfriends who are from different countries that speak Spanish. It's like, oh, I'm fluent in those relationships. But maybe in the business setting, I know that there's still a lot of growth that I need in order to communicate on a more professional level. And that was something something that you've mentioned, and that we can talk about a little more, is how, your fluency will shift in different aspects of your life, because you realize, like, maybe you're fluent in one aspect, and then you realize that there's still growth that you need, whether that's refining your pronunciation or, learning the better way to express yourself in business. Because that's something I realized working in Chile last year, is that I realized that I was lacking a degree of fluency and like the kind of nuances of the language and the way that people really communicate, and that made life a little more challenging for me. Even though with my friends and my ex-boyfriend, everything was great. Like, we could have the most intense, wonderful conversation. So
yeah. So it sounds like at that moment you realized, oh, there's this other aspect of Spanish that I need to focus on. And if you had decided, okay, this is what I need to focus on because I need to have this job and it's going to be in this field. So now I know, okay, I can focus on the vocabulary for this field, for speaking with these sorts of workers and coworkers and bosses. And you would have been able to do it because you had already done it in other areas of Spanish.
It's like a holistic perspective. You kind of just blew my mind right now, that I never really considered it that way, that, you can have that, like, it's kind of like, I'm visualizing like a circle with all these, like, kind of like wheels with all their different, I can't even think of the word right now, but
Spokes?
spokes. Yes, the spokes, and like that you have that central fluency, but there's all those different ones around you that sometimes need a little more strengthening, or they need more attention in order to achieve an overall fluency in the language. That's something really key for our English learners, is to understand that learning conversational English may not help them in the professional setting, but they all kind of get strong together. But sometimes you need more attention to one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any things that you notice that when you work with your clients that are things that you always talk about with regards to fluency, or is it really super as individual as the person?
Well, I think the big one, we've touched on it just a little bit so far. The big thing is looking at why they want to be fluent. So even if they don't bring it up, I make sure that we talk about that, so that then they know how to create their system. So if their why is to be able to, maybe they're already a psychiatrist, psychologist, and they're going to be working in a hospital where some of the patients are going to be international or speaking English. So then they know, all right, I need to get my English ready to work with these English speaking patients. So then if they say, oh, but I really enjoy this topic, like whatever kind of dog, if they're a dog owner, or if they really like camping, I could say, oh, that's easy. We can read some articles on those topics and it would be fun. But let's go back to your why. Why do you really need this English right now? What's the area that you're working on? Well, I need it to speak to my patients so that I can work with these patients. Okay, well, those articles could be fun, but let's go, it's going to a harder place sometimes, because we know that's what we have to work on. And it's hard, but that's where the growth will come from. That's where we'll be able to see improvement and then feel more fluent.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that a lot of times we feel this resistance to learning the thing we most need and most want to learn, but we're happy. Like, I will sometimes, working with my clients, we'll have like these really great conversations, which includes increases their conversational fluency. But if they really need to focus on one aspect of, communication techniques for work, it's like we're just distracting ourselves from the main goal of their actual need, the thing that will have make them or encourage them to make the greatest progress. So it's almost like, I notice that I'll put, especially when I work on pronunciation with people, I'm like, you're trying to have a conversation with me because you don't really want to fix your TH sound, even though we need to drill that right now. And so, it's our job as teachers and coaches to kind of like shift back to the thing that's, most needed for them. And I think that's a special skill that you clearly have, is to be able to, get the person back on track with you're able to see their goals maybe a little bit clearer than they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or I try and ask them to define their goals for themselves, because I can't define someone else's goal. I can't know what's important for them in their life. But once they've told me, then I can say, well, you did say that you want to work on this, so what can we do to improve that? So it's staying in the direction of where they're going to see improvement.
So you're kind of like nudging them towards their greater, deeper, like excavating, like an archaeologist, kind of like, you have a goal and we're going to uncover it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, as a guide.
Yeah, I think that's something I didn't realize when because when I first started teaching English, like most people, I was teaching in the classroom and a lot of classroom settings with a curriculum. But something I've realized as I started working online is how important, is that I also say that, as I said at the beginning, I'm your guide. And I realize, of course, I'm a teacher, but I'm also really trying to guide people towards these skills. I can't put them in their heads, but I can guide them in the right direction. Like, I always joke about having that flashlight, being the person like lighting up the road ahead, like kind of pointing people in the right direction. So I love that you mentioned that as well.
Oh, that's a great metaphor, Kim. I'm going to use that in my classes. Where are we pointing the flashlight now?
Exactly. Right? And a lot of things, that I know we discussed a little bit before coming on video is that I'm talking a lot about beginner's mind with my students right now and the people learning with me in my videos, because we're reviewing topics that others have taught them about, or things that they've learned before, but you kind of learn a new thing each time you go over it. And even for me, because I work on communication techniques a lot of times, I'm learning so much doing the research in order to teach my students. And so, I love, especially because I know you have a very strong background in mindfulness, and I'd love to hear, like if we can share some tips, batting around ideas between the two of us for learners about how, it's this like open-mindedness and curiosity that will guide you towards higher fluency. We don't know everything. Even native English speakers don't know everything. Even experienced English teachers like us don't know everything, and we learn with our students. So I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that banging. It's
sorry.
Nope.
It's very windy here. So if you hear anything in the background, it's just, that's life, right?
Okay, all right. Yeah, so being mindful. So whenever you start a new task, you can just take a breath before you do it and just notice how you're feeling in your body and not judge it. So if you're going into a situation, if you're going to have a call with your boss in English, you can just take a breath before you go into the room, or before you hit the button to have the Skype call. And if you're feeling nervous, you can just notice, I'm feeling nervous. And what does it feel like? What does it feel like in my body? Maybe it's making my hands sweat, or maybe my neck feels really tight. And just notice that feeling. That's one of the first steps towards being mindful. Just noticing what's happening, noticing the sensations in your body, whatever they are, and you can name them. So you can do that before some sort of big event or big situation that you're going to be speaking in English. You can do that before you're about to study on your own as well. Maybe you're feeling like, I'd rather be watching the next episode of whatever on Netflix. And just notice, what does that resistance to studying feel like? And just be in that moment. And then when you're studying, this can also be helpful to find out how you study and where is the joy, like the happiness, the fun that you find in what you're studying or learning or reading, so that you can do more of that. So if you feel, oh, wow, I really enjoy reading articles like this, and it makes my eyes feel like they're opening wider. Maybe you even have a slight smile. You notice that you're laughing more as you're reading articles like that. Then you can add more of that into your routine, into your system. Make it part of your system.
Oh, that's a fascinating approach, because I mean it's one of those things, like some things like what you share, it may seem really simple on the surface, but when you actually do it, that means you're discovering your joy for English learning, and you're discovering what motivates you in order to achieve that higher level of fluency. So it kind of goes along with that guiding, but it's like relying on that inner guidance system to help you identify what's most interesting and motivating for you. And so that's just a beautiful example of how, bringing a little more awareness to how you feel when you're learning, when you're trying different English learning techniques, can help you make quicker progress, because you're able to really consider how you feel in that moment. Or, if you're trying to force yourself to sit down and study and you're feeling resistance, by questioning why, that's going to mean maybe it's just not the right time and you need to wait until you have more motivation.
Yeah. So you can notice, is it the time of day? Is it because you've gotten home and you're still wearing your work clothes? Maybe you need to change into something more comfortable, or maybe you feel more comfortable studying as you're doing something. So maybe listening to an audio or podcast as you're washing the dishes, or getting ready for getting dinner ready, or as you're working out. I have lots of students who do that. I had one student who he had a great system. He started by using podcasts, which are these online audio like this, like an interview, but they were meant for people who were learning English. So he started at this lower level of English, and then he would listen to harder and harder episodes, and then eventually he was listening to regular audiobooks for native speakers, native English speakers. And he would do that as he was exercising in the morning. So he found the time of day, the way, the method, which was his best learning style, and then he just did it every day. So
yeah, he discovered his own joy that wasn't necessarily what was prescribed to him or suggested. He realized, oh, this is actually something that works for me. And I think that, you know, I have two thoughts that made me think of that, is that one is that a lot of times, especially when people have hit that kind of intermediate plateau, they feel like they don't like English. And so I've talked about in previous videos, which I'll link below in the description for those of you watching, is that, you know, I've mentioned that a lot of times the reason we don't feel internally motivated when we're learning a language is because we're thinking of it in terms of when somebody gives you the textbook, they give you the assignments, they tell you what to do. But at the same time, we're a little resistant to taking charge of our own language learning and finding what does work for us, because we think that it needs to be, you know, told from someone above or someone who's an expert. And so I just think that that's, you know, that it's so wonderful to kind of, you know, even just by tuning into your feelings about a subject, you start noticing, oh, you know, I may really hate reading articles in English, but I love listening to podcasts while doing something. And I can improve my English in that way. Because obviously we do have to do things that are uncomfortable in order to grow. We talked about that earlier in this conversation. But I just think that's such an important thing for people to consider when learning English, is that you can try out different things and what works. You know, sometimes you might love podcasts and then you get bored and you need to start reading. Like it's going to change in your English learning journey.
Yeah, and your system can grow and change with you because it's yours. It's not mine. No, it's not what Teacher Kim is saying. You have to do this, right? It's the system that you've figured out is working for you. And then if you're being mindful, if you're noticing, if you're conscious of what you like and don't like, you can start to feel like, okay, I feel like I've done enough of this, or this is becoming a little too much. Maybe I need to go back a level, or now it's time to watch a movie every once in a while, or whatever. However, you need to tweak, which means change just a little bit. If you need to change your system just a little bit, to tweak your system a little bit.
Yeah, and sometimes we do have to naturally just go backwards a little bit because we miss things. Like that's kind of where I was saying, even learning about communication techniques that I use, I'm learning things. But I'm working on with one of my clients. We're actually working on kind of basic vocabulary for daily life. And we started working with making tea. And I talked about this in my conversation with Ryan about how, you know, she realized that she could not actually describe the process of making tea in English because these aren't words you use every day. And I often tell, you know, people and make jokes about when I was speaking Spanish, I was fluent in Spanish, but I didn't know the word for fork. And I'm like holding my imaginary fork. Or because how often do I talk about it?
Yeah. I had a similar experience with pillow. I had to look up the word for pillow.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that, you know, that's why I like these conversations with teachers and especially people who speak other languages, because we're showing you that, you know, this is a journey and it's, you know, I think like my kind of goal with my videos and maybe some of the things that you talk about on your YouTube channel and on your website are about kind of like relaxing that arrogance or overconfidence in order to like really understand what you need to progress. Because I think with teachers like you or me, we try to make people feel comfortable in order to like really get into what they need. And, you know, and that's why I was so excited to talk to you, because I love the stuff that you share on your website. And, you know, I don't know if you have anything specific you'd like to point out about, you know, from your website or anything that like you think that you can particularly guide people towards, you know, discovering this deeper understanding within them of their own motivation.
Yeah, I have a free guide that I've put together with some of what I feel are the most important ideas, the things that I've used, and the things, not just me, the things that I've seen my other students who have become fluent through using these systems. So I've put together a list of 5, and I have this guide for free on my website. So if any of you are, if it's easier for you to learn through reading, you might like to download this guide, because you're listening right now, you're watching this video, but you can also read as well. So that's at calmenglish.com/free-guide, and I can send you the link so that
Yeah,
you
we'll
can
include the link below the video, both on my website and on YouTube, so that you can download it. One click.
Yeah. I just want to reference something that I put in that guide, which was, sometimes we want to be completely fluent. We want to understand all of the words. And I put I put a picture of that meme, all the things. There's like a guy like, all the things. He wants to do all the things, right? And that's great. You know, we have this motivation, this desire to speak all the English. We want to know it all, and we want to be able to do it all. But there's more than 1 million words in English. I don't know them all. I don't need to know them all, and neither do you.
Exactly. Neither do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, something that I've really developed in the past year that's helped me is ability to find focus. And I found that, like, well, this is where I think your background is also very interesting. You know, we're in a very distracted world where there's a lot of information hitting us at all times. And I realized that, you know, in order to make progress in one area of my life, I had to kind of focus intensively on something for, let's say, 90 days, just because that's an easy amount. And I realized, like, how much more progress that I make in my life if I focus my attention more specifically for 90 days. And I have another video on the YouTube channel about finding focus in your language learning, that if your goal is to understand, you know, a movie without subtitles, then only practice your listening for 90 days. You'll eventually include all of the things later, but you'll make more progress if you're not like, oh wait, now I want to read, and now I want to listen to podcasts, and now I'm going to watch all of the YouTube videos by all of the English teachers, you know. So I think it's really important that you mentioned that. Like, it's, you know, it's kind of like relax your own expectations and you'll make faster progress.
Yeah, and that kind of goes along with a term that they use in the meditation community, which is called monkey mind. So we're like a monkey, or there's like a monkey inside, like, looking for the next shiny object. Like, oh, I can learn through being on Twitter. Okay, now I'm on Twitter. Oh, I can learn through podcasts. Oh, podcasts and videos and this, and oh, these guides and this course and this course. Whoa. It can be too much. So we have to calm that monkey mind, or just notice, oh, I have this desire to do all these different things, but what am I going to choose to do?
Exactly. What am I going to what am I going to choose to do today, right?
Today, right now,
in the moment.
and for the next 30 days or the next 90 days, if you want to do an experiment like that, which sounds amazing.
I actually love challenges. That's something I've picked up, you know, in the past year or so, or maybe 2 years. Time is flying very quickly, but I realized that if I gave myself a 30-day challenge, like 30 days of, you know, meditation, or 30 days of yoga, or 30 days of, you know, doing something creative, 30 days of learning on a certain subject, then I was able to kind of build up that momentum that made me feel like I did something, because I didn't want to stop. Like, I didn't want to break it's called, we say, breaking the chain, right? I think it's from Jerry Seinfeld talked about it. Like, don't break the chain. Like, so you like seeing all of those days together. But I really, that's why I think, like, you know, maybe a good way to kind of summarize all of this is that, you know, it's the small steps that you take over a long period of time that lead to the greatest success. And that's why I love what you keep mentioning about the system. So if you develop different pieces to your system, and you find your own system for improving your English, then you're going to make this small progress, but over a lifetime, it will, you know, it'll be an incredible journey.
Yeah. And you can think of the center as your big fluency goal, and it could change, right? So it could be whatever it is at this point in time, but maybe it'll be different next year. Maybe you'll get a promotion, and then you have to learn all of the management terms. But maybe for right now, it's doing your computer science job or your programming job, and that's what's in the center. And then the spokes, like you said, around the wheel all of those things could be part of your system. So a little bit of listening in the morning, and then maybe you review the vocabulary that you heard in the podcast later on that day. And then maybe another part of your system is then you're going to review that vocabulary a week later. And then you're also making sure that you're speaking the language. So all of those things, they're pointing towards, your center. So what's your center? What's your goal?
Yeah. One of my favorite things to say on my website and in my videos is like, it's all connected, right? So that strengthening one aspect of your English is going to strengthen other aspects of your English, and maybe not in ways that you expect. But that's one of the things that, if you think about, you, in order to be a good writer in English, you need to read, because you need to have that good input. In order to speak English well, you need to listen to high quality English. And so even if you feel like, for those of you watching who are not, don't have ready access to native English speakers or consistent access, you will pick up that speaking ability when you need it, when you have that access, but you can improve your other skills on your own. And because it's all connected, it's all a system of language that, it's fascinating. So you should feel proud of whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's all connected, and hopefully all pointing towards your center, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but even if your center changes, you're going to take the skills that you've learned for the last goal that you were reaching towards, and you'll be able to use that for the next thing that you're working towards being able to do with speaking or writing that business email or whatever your current goal is.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it, is that, kind of like your target can be moving, but it doesn't mean that that time or that investment of energy wasn't worth it. Of course it is. Of course, because it helps get you from where you were to where you are now. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm watching the clock, so I don't want to take any more of your time, but I just wanted to thank Sabrina for being here with us. And Sabrina is reachable at calmenglish.com, .com, calmenglish.com. She also has a YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe. I'll put the links below the video and also on my website. But I don't know if, Sabrina, if you have anything you want to say, to my audience, to anybody who might be out there listening, any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? Just know that whatever your goal is, that's what's important for you. So maybe it's not the same goal as your coworker or even what your boss wants for your English. But if you know what you want for your English and you're working towards that goal, then you know that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's just kind of keep your eyes on your own paper, stay in your own lane, and be confident that you're going to discover what's going to work for you and what's going to help you improve on your journey. I already know what the title of this video is going to be based on the conversation.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Sabrina. Once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com, and we were so lucky to speak with Sabrina from calmenglish.com. You'll find all of the links below the video, and hopefully maybe we'll get a chance to talk to her again soon. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.